Good morning and welcome to this GDA webinar from the M&E team from the GDA program. We're going to be talking today about leveraging development finance with the Asian Development Bank and helping to navigate the pathways through the procurement methods of the ADB. We'll be hearing a bit later on from a panel led by Paolo Manunta from ADB and formerly of ESA. But to begin, I'm going to hand over to Christoph Albrecht from ESA, who will set the scene about the GDA program and where this webinar series fits in. Over to you, Christoph.
Great. Thanks, Fabi, for the brief intro. I'll actually keep it very brief on my end as well. I just wanted to maybe set a little bit the stage on where this webinar fits in the broader context of the GDA program. So let me quickly run you through the some key pillars, key cornerstones of GDA. It is supported by 14 ESA member states. It is part of a broader cooperation framework that we label Space for International Development Assistance. In Space for IDA, we actually collaborate and jointly implement this with our international financial institution partners, World Bank and Asian Development Bank. GDA is currently set for 5 years, runs till for the coming years. To date, we have mobilized more than 100 euros of both space and development finance commitments, and we'll get back to that later. And it's important to understand that GDA is, even though it is a new program, it is an evolution that builds on a long history of 15 years by now of ESA participating and collaborating with IFIs to foster and facilitate uptake of satellite Earth observation and development operations. So what do we do in GDA? We have a list of, pretty comprehensive list of thematic domains that we address. You see them all here on the screen. It's 11 of them. We have kicked off already 8 thematic that are active, where we have team engaging our IFI partners, and 3 more to come this year. I will not go into detail. You can find a wealth of information on the GDA website, gda.esa.int. So I refer you to that for more information. How do these thematic domains fit in the broader programmatic context? The thematic domains are part of this GDA AID activity line, AID standing for Agile EO Information Development. And this activity line is supported by a few programmatic one of which is GDA M&E Monitoring and Evaluation and Impact Assessment activity. Our today. M&E is really an important element to GDA. We have defined the programmatic theory of change and impact pathway that you see here. And it really kind of connects the dots and helps us both adjust things in an agile manner, but also helps us the impact we generate through the various program activities and how we can do even better in the future. With this, really, it's all about, growing demand on the side of the development practitioner communities, and we hear about that today. And therefore, we as ESA feel the strong urge to move beyond the initial piloting efforts towards a mainstreaming of the use of satellite Earth observation in development operations. Actually, we have just released a feature story the other day that frames this initial state of play of Earth observation use in IFIs. So again, I'd encourage you to check it out on our GDA website. And we'll hear much more detail today from our panelists. Actually, today's webinar is, in a sense, part of a series which started back in October with a EO Café jointly organized with ERSC, the European Association of Remote Sensing Companies, where we kind of jointly evaluated and explored opportunities for the European Earth observation service industry to access development finance. That initial EO Café was followed by a webinar, again organized under the GDA M&E activity, focusing on development finance and procurement particularities of the World Bank. That was back in December. And now we do a similar activity focusing on the Asian Development Bank. So with that, actually, I would like to hand back to Ravi, our host today, to introduce the amazing set of panelists we have here. Paolo is well known to the GDA family. He has now kind of switched or transitioned sides from being the ESA representative at ADB to now being the ADB Earth Observation focal point. And we have a list of exciting contributors, panelists, procurement specialists, but I leave this to Ravi to introduce them. So thanks again and welcome everybody. And I look forward to a really exciting discussion today.
Many thanks, Chris. That's a very helpful overview of where this webinar fits in. And as Chris mentioned there, the series of webinars that have been delivered by the Monitoring Evaluation team, ourselves at Imperative Space and our partners Caribou Space, will continue over the coming months. And at the end of this session, we will tell you a bit more about some of the other webinars coming up later in the year. So before we hand over to Paolo, just a quick bit of housekeeping to mention that there is a Q&A session planned at the end of the hour. We have a panel a method through which you can enter your questions during the panel session, and we will select some key themes that emerge from that later on. And also just to mention that the session will be shared as a video recording after today's webinar, and slides will also be made available from the presentations. So with that, we'll pass over now to Paolo, who will introduce the rest of the panel and lead us through the discussion over the next 25 to 30 minutes. Over to you, Paolo.
Thanks, Ravi. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. It's a real pleasure to be connecting today from Manila HQ. I'm really pleased that today I'm not alone here, but I have all the help that is needed, regarding procurement by Stephane Gillard. He will have a presentation right after me. Then also Stephane Bessadi, always from the procurement department of ADB, specialized in procurement of goods. Stephane is specialized in procurement of services. And then we will have also the opportunity to have a chat with Eric Quincieu. He has been prototyping the use of satellite Earth observation in operations in ADB, very much a lot of work in Indonesia, namely. And he has actually has new plans to produce, like to use satellite Earth observation services in other countries as well. Myself, I will provide just a brief presentation after Stephane, but without further ado, I'll pass the word to Stephane. Stephane, can you share your slides?
Yeah, just a second, please. I'll just
yeah, thanks.
Close my
and of course, we try to keep the time in schedule so that we can have a lively discussion later on for questions and answers.
Sorry, just having some technical problems here.
Do you want Sarah to?
Here we are. Here we are.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Good afternoon from Manila, everyone. I'm Steve Gillard, head of the Consulting Services Unit at ADB. And I'm going to give you today an introduction to doing business with ADB and talk you through some of the key features of the ADB procurement system. We don't have a huge amount of time today to go into enormous depth, so I'll try to show you an overview of the key information, and I'll also, as I do so, go through some information about where you can find additional details should you want to go into more depth. So I'm going to jump straight in and ask why pursue ADB finance contracts. An ADB covers a huge geographical area, and it works across a wide range of sectors. ADB is traditionally known as an infrastructure bank, and of course, a lot of its business is still in the infrastructure field. However, in recent years, it's been developing more and more of a presence in private sector, in PPP, and in other areas. So ADB is a very good gateway into a lot of regional diversity, and also a lot of sectors which are emerging through our countries. ADB is also a AAA rated financial institution with most of the major agencies, meaning that we're a reliable payer. We've been around for more than 50 years. You can be assured that if you provide us with goods or services that you will get paid eventually. We have procurement procedures which are benchmarked against the other major multilateral development banks. We've mentioned World Bank already, but we've also benchmarked against EBRD and others that you may be aware of. We have a emphasis on the principles of fairness and transparency. So we try and make sure that all bidders are treated equally, and that the quality of information supplied is as good as we can make it. We also have a rigorous approach to integrity and anti-corruption. We have an independent department which looks after issues or complaints in that respect. And we also have a procurement complaints function. So if you feel that you have been mistreated in a procurement process, then you can go down that route. So here is the geographical spread that I referred to show you where ADB works. As of today, ADB is split largely into 5 regional groups. You can see them here along with the current active portfolios. So we obviously have large investments in Central West, South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and then somewhat less in Pacific, although obviously Pacific tends to have much smaller economies. So there is actually a lot of work that we do there. And we also have a small amount of work, 5 billion, which is categorized as regional, which means it's not attached to one particular region from that list. So that's what it looks like geographically. And this is what it looks like in terms of sectors, because ADB is currently moving under what we're calling the new operating model from a sort of regional based institution to a sectoral institution. And you can see here what the big sectors are going to be. There's transport, water, health, energy. You can see the others there, which are all going to become their own departments within ADB. And this is going to change, I think, to some degree, the way that we work. So taking consultancy, for instance, at the minute, we have not just a regional breakdown, but a sectoral breakdown within each region. So in a way that creates quite small internal markets within ADB. But when we work on a sectoral basis, I think we'll move much more towards framework type arrangements where we will impanel consultants to provide services across the whole bank in a particular sector. So this is what a typical ADB project cycle looks like, obviously in simplified form. We can start from the top, and you can see the high level strategic commencement, really, which is the country partnership strategy and the regional cooperation strategies. These are a high level and are not project specific. And then each of the projects goes through the early phases of concept, preparation and approval, where consultants may be involved, giving advice, such things as feasibility studies, surveys and the like. And then obviously we have the main phase, which is the implementation phase, where the private sector provides consultancy and also goods, works and services for the projects. Then we have an evaluation phase where there's lessons learned, which feeds back round in the cycle into future strategies and into improving projects, and round and round the cycle goes. So this is where we have requirements for all sorts of contractors. So I'm going to talk mainly about consultancy, because I've been told that this is the main area of interest. So ADB offers opportunities to firm consultants. So firm consultants can be private sector, which typically they are, but they can also be NGOs, not-for-profit organizations. They can be things like universities, think tanks. They can even be other international institutions. We do work with UN, for instance, from time to time. And we also have opportunities for individual consultants. Individual consultants can be private individuals, or they can be experts nominated by a firm. And we do a lot of individual consultancy compared to some other IFIs. And the opportunities will be selected and contracted largely according to the funding source. So if the funding source is a grant or a loan, then it will tend to be the borrower or the executing agency who will select and contract the consultant. If, however, the funding source is technical assistance, and I should just explain that technical assistance is money which ADB administers on behalf normally of donors. They could be national donors, or they could be donors from various organizations or institutions that have particular agendas that match our mandate, and they ask us to deploy these funds for them. So we select and contract using the technical assistance funds, or TA as you'll hear, and also obviously from our own staff consultancy budget, which is budget that we use to supplement our own staffing requirements. So here's a breakdown of the consultancy contract spend in 2022. On the left is individuals, on the right is firms. So we can see that the majority of individual consultants, about 100 million or so, was from this technical assistance program that I've just described. And we did about 300 million or so of loan and grant funded firms contracts. And this includes some enormous detailed design contracts and things like that, which can often run into tens of millions of dollars. So that's where we spend, and you can see there the numbers of contracts that we issue. So ADB uses a variety of methods to select firms for its consultancy contracts. I don't really have time to go into detail about all of these methods, so I'll start off just by quickly explaining what QCBS, or quality and cost-based selection, is, because this is ADB's preferred method. So this is what we call a two-envelope system, and what that means is, in the first envelope, the bidder will place their technical proposal, and the technical proposal will be opened and scored, and then it will be given a weighting. So typically it will be given 80% of the total score. So, that part of the procedure is completed, and then the second envelope is opened, and the second envelope contains the financial proposal. And this will also be scored. Normally, it means that the lowest proposal gets maximum scores, and then the other proposals receive a score in relation to how close they are to the lowest bid. And then those two things, the technical and the financial scores, are put together, and we find a winner, which is supposed to combine value for money, being quality and cost. So that's the standard, the default method, which we use most often. There are other methods which I'll go into just very quickly. We've got quality-based selection, which is similar to quality cost-based selection, but there is no financial scoring. We've got fixed budget selection, where the highest ranked technical proposal wins, providing it's within budget. And then we've got least cost selection, where the lowest priced technically qualified proposal wins. And then obviously there's the other ones like direct selection, which are normally for lower value contracts where there is actually no competitive procurement done. We just award normally on the basis of it being a low value contract or a particular firm having unique experience. So all of those competitive ones tend to follow a fairly similar pattern. They will start with us preparing terms of reference to decide what we need. We will then issue an advertisement or a procurement notice. We will receive a number of expressions of interest, and we will normally shortlist between 3 and 6 of those expressions of interest and issue a request for proposals. We'll ask those firms to prepare proposals, which we will receive. We will evaluate them according to one of those methodologies that I just described on the previous slide, and then we'll move to negotiation and award to the highest ranked firm. So I've been asked to give you some information on where you can find information on ADB and its opportunities. And this is really the place to go. It's the ADB Business Centre, and you can see the link there. This is a goldmine of information on ADB. It contains all of the relevant policies and regulations. It contains guidance. It contains frequently asked questions. And of course, it also links to the current opportunities which are available. So I would suggest that you take note of this site and have a look, because obviously you will find far more detail than I'm able to cover in this short session. So the information that you'll find there, we can classify really into two categories for simplicity. One is those for long-term planning, which will allow you to look ahead to work out how you want to strategize your participation in ADB projects and how to prepare. And the other one is the more immediate short-term opportunities, including active current opportunities or ways to find them. I'm going to go through these, and I'm going to show you some examples now. So you can get to this site again via the ADB Business Centre, and it contains the country partnership strategies and the country operations business plan. And these both give very long range, as you can see there. This is basically a 5-year strategy for the Philippines. It tells you what is envisaged going quite a long way into the future. And you can check the countries where you have capacity, and you can see whether they're doing anything that would be of interest to you, and you can start planning accordingly and maybe making connections with local firms or researching the local market well in advance of the actual opportunities. The next level of granularity is the procurement plan. And this lists all of the foreseen procurement for a given project. So these are updated periodically, so you should monitor them. The timelines can change, and also new procurement can be added in, or the envisaged procurement can be cancelled. So it's worth looking at this site and seeing more detail about the projects that you're interested in. So moving on to the current opportunities, we have the specific procurement notice, and these are active selections which are currently available, for which you can apply. There is generally a reasonable amount of information which is provided. We provide terms of reference, unlike some other institutions, so that you can actually see exactly what's required. You can even see this at EOI stage. So long before you prepare a proposal, you can start to see what ADB needs. We'll often also give the budget and we'll give any applicable deadlines. Please try and respect the deadlines, because often if you apply late, you may miss the opportunity. So if you want to apply for ADB opportunities, you must be registered on the Consultant Management System, which is generally abbreviated to CMS. This is a web-based portal. It's been around for quite a long time now, I think about 16 years. So in some ways it's kind of showing its age, and we are getting ready to replace it with a newer, more modern system. But for the moment, this is what you need to use. And it's actually a very powerful tool. It's a very in-depth tool, and I think it's probably more complicated and involved than any of the other MDBs whose systems I've seen. And it's got some very useful features, which I will talk you through. There's also lots of online training that you can do if you want to become proficient with the system. And it allows you to do all things within the procurement cycle on ADB contracts. So you can express interest, you can submit proposals, you can ask questions, etc., etc. So some of the other things you can do, you can check the list of active consulting opportunities, and you can actually go, and this is an example of one, you can actually go in to a record. You can see here the budget, you can see the deadlines, you can see the selection method, and lower down there is links to the terms of reference, etc. And in fact, you can make your expression of interest through this site. In fact, you have to make it through the site. So for those of you who haven't worked with us before, please take a look at CMS and create a profile. You can also register on CMS for alerts. These give you weekly bulletins of all of the current opportunities. The bulletins, unfortunately, are not filtered. So if you subscribe for it, it will give you all of the opportunities. So you sometimes have to spend a bit of time looking through it. This is obviously something which we will improve in the new system, but for now you get a long list. So this is certainly worth monitoring, because if you miss an opportunity, you may reduce your time to respond. CMS also provides some less immediately obvious resources, which are nonetheless very useful. And this one is a list of shortlisted firms. So these are firms that are shortlisted on particular assignments, which means that they are currently in the process of preparing proposals. And of course, this could be interesting for you because it may be that you have some expertise that they lack and that you could supplement their proposal. So it's legitimate for shortlisted firms to supplement their proposal during the proposal preparation stage. And it may be worth approaching them. ADB doesn't facilitate this. Please don't come to us and ask us to make an introduction. We won't do that because we don't want to be structuring bids. But by all means, you can find the shortlist and you can contact them yourself. And also there's a list of awarded contracts, and this is also useful. You can find out who your competitors are, see who's doing well in your particular field, and you can possibly think about collaborating for future assignments. Maybe reach out, see if they're interested. It's also a good way of finding local subcontractors because ADB, along with most other development banks, like to encourage local participation, and this can be a good way of finding firms or firms who've applied and who you could work with locally. Finally, I'm going to give you some general advice. Please, I would suggest try and use the information that you've given today. Look at some of those links that I've sent you. and try and do your research on ADB and how it works. Find out about the countries and the sectors that you're interested in, and work out who your potential partners or competitors may be, and work accordingly. Try and build a reputation. So if you haven't worked with ADB before, it can be daunting to try and get through the door, so to speak. So think about some ways that you can do that. You could try and become a subcontractor to another firm. You could consider taking smaller contracts. Don't necessarily assume that you'll walk straight in and get the huge contracts, but it may be that smaller contracts or direct awards could be found. Also consider, if you're a firm, putting forward your experts for individual consulting contracts. Again, this could be a good way of increasing the expertise within your organization in that way. Also, try and be selective in your applications. Don't assume that this is a numbers game and that if you apply for 100 contracts, you'll surely get one. Try and find what your competitive advantage is, and prepare very good EOIs, because we get a lot of expressions of interest and proposals, and obviously the ones that are good quality stand out, and the ones that are very generic don't get over the first hurdle. Obviously, also please carefully monitor all of the opportunities and try and follow any instructions that you're given in the tender documents or the consultant service recruitment notice. So I think I've kept that reasonably brief, and that's the end of my quick introduction to doing business with ADB. So I'll pass you back to Paolo, I guess, who will introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Steven. You're really making now my life easier, because having you on board explaining CMS, but also many important points. Just for me to summarize briefly, it's very important, the quality cost-based selection methods. Quality is very important for us. Local subcontractors, those can be found through the expression of interest, as you mentioned. Also very important, the individual consultant through a firm. Depending where you are, sometimes individual consultants has a different meaning than for ADB. Just to cut a long story short, individual consultants can be through a firm, meaning that the individual consultant is an expert nominated by the company, and that's a good way to start with ADB. But before I start my brief presentation, Stephane, do you have any comments to add, from to what Steven just illustrated to us? I guess not. Okay, go.
Yeah, sorry. No, very practically, to follow up on what Steve presented. If you are not familiar with ADB process and ADB rule, of course we have these events which are supporting you to be more familiar. But also don't underestimate the time also needed to get accustomed to this system. And if, for instance, you are submitting an application and it's not successful, don't be discouraged, and try another time, and you will learn also by doing. It's a very important process to learn by doing, to better understand how to improve how to value your experience, your CV, or how to better understand also how to apply to a project, and then you will eventually be successful. So of course it's a new expertise, as you will present after. This satellite imagery is a new expertise. It is very much needed in ADB project, and that is growing in ADB project. So it's very important also to have from our side more and more interest from a specialized consultant, as we have probably many in the audience. Thank you.
Very good, thanks. I'll start with my presentation just in a second. Okay. Hopefully you can see my presentation, I believe. Okay. My presentation will be a little bit more specific regarding, satellite Earth observation services and products. But before that, allow me to spend a few words about complementing what Stephane has illustrated already regarding ADB. Basically, ADB, of course, as you know, is a multilateral development bank, is a regional, founded in 1966, 49 members in the region out of 68 members. It's very important to notice that we have 45 field offices. Proximity to what we call clients or partners, developing member countries is very important for ADB. A total of about 3,700 employees spanning from 64 nationalities. Let me go a little bit of the copter view of the region's challenge. Of course,
Paolo,
the
can
objective.
I quickly interrupt you? Sorry, can you press swap display so we see the full screen? Because at the moment we see it with the notes. Thank you.
Got a sec.
On top, very top, swap displays should do the job.
Swap. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't see it. Is
On
it any
top of
better
the...
now?
No.
Let me stop and reshare.
Just the wrong screen. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's fine. That's I'm glad you did. Can you see the screen now?
No, same thing. It says use slideshow, maybe that one. I don't know if you can see that.
No.
Anyway. Anyway, just move on. It's okay. We can see it.
Okay. Sorry about this. Okay, then I put it back where it was before. Okay, just a little bit about the poverty, the region challenges. Our Asia Pacific region is still home of about 40% of the world extreme poor. What is important to you is that there is a big gap in terms of infrastructure. As Stephane said, this one is overall an infrastructure bank, 1.7 trillion per year. And also, out of 10 countries most exposed to climate change, environmental stress, and natural disasters, 7 are ADB developing member countries. How do we operate? It's very important, this part, because whatever we do in terms of technology that we take from what is available from satellite Earth observation is somehow matching, to either several or at least one of our operational priorities. Just briefly, our operational priorities as part of Strategy 2030 are addressing remain poverty, accelerating progress in gender equality, tackling climate change, building climate disaster resilience. You can imagine how important is the contribution of satellite Earth observation here, but also, carry on making cities more livable. You will see practical example in a moment what kind of services and products we use to do that. Promoting rural development and food security, of course, strengthening government's institutional capacity, meaning, like building databases of information, and then finally foster regional cooperation and integration. Key approaches, as was mentioned before, we have, we are expanding our private sector operations. We are also catalyzing financial resources for development coming from other sources. But the last point is very important, because what we are doing is actually supporting the project with satellite Earth observation technology, but most important, we are strengthening the knowledge services, the knowledge capacity in the country. Let me move to the next slide. Now, if you're so patient that you will match a little bit, the logos that I showed you before with some of the text here, you will see that here we have a series of fairly detailed list of services based on Earth observation that we use at the moment to address our operational priorities. And in this, we use our own funding, but also, we are also using some of the support provided by ESA. Generally speaking, ADB does not undertake any technology development inside, in indoors. So basically, we do buy this from the outside, but what we take extremely care of is really fostering the capacity in the city, in the country. We are happy when our clients and partners are happy, meaning that, when they really express requirements for adopting satellite Earth observation technology. Let me list very briefly, and then, we can open up for questions also and comments by my colleague Eric. For example, looking into urban sustainability. At the moment, we are active in design of better transport urban infrastructure, design of greener cities, mitigation of urban heat islands. When we move to agriculture, we have quite a few projects already, started. Cloud-based satellite processing from land cover map to biomass, support sustainable agricultural policies. That's another line of business that we have active at the moment. Climate resilience. This one, it's an endless, demand, because I forgot to mention that ADB has a plan that by 2030, there will be $100 billion allocated for climate. In other words, if you like, it's one way of becoming the climate bank. Regarding to this one, more specific, what we are doing with satellite Earth observation, we are supporting coastal erosion assessment, but more important, we are also combining this one into some modeling and some consultants to support engineering of coastal defense infrastructure. Let me move on to marine environment. We have projects and use of Earth observation in sustainable fishery, marine water quality. We are also dealing at the moment with the regional digital twin. We just closed one procurement 1 week ago, where we are planning to do a regional digital twin to showcase urban expansion, 3D of major cities, and disaster-prone areas. Disaster resilience is very big, and I'm sure that Eric, will spend a few words on this one. We are working on early warning system plus, integrated with IoT devices. This one is a project we have ongoing in Nepal, for example. Flood mapping, historical analysis, and real-time activations. We are using this one in several countries. Land subsidence and building stability, water security, and watershed analysis. We also operate in FCAS, fragility and conflict affected situation. In this case, our fragility countries are in need of stabilizing revenue lines. The way we use Earth observation, for example, is really to help to map, the cash crop and to develop, plans for improvement of the cash coming from the crops. Analysis of water and crop availability in fragility settings, like many people are already flagging, water will be unfortunately, the limited resource in the future. So there are places, we're dealing with where we use a satellite Earth observation to understand available water and any potential problems, that can give rise to conflict, transboundaries. Finally, one important element is the national spatial infrastructure. I know this one is not perceived as a typical satellite Earth observation domain, but for ADB is becoming very important, because as you can imagine in our investments, sometimes we do get a request at the national level. They want to have, like a national spatial data infrastructure for what they call it is resources mobilization, which is basically taxation based on cadastre, but not only. There's a big interest also in building thematic cadastres, in which satellite and aerial derived information layers are absolutely needed. This is actually my list of applications field where we are active at the moment. I'll stop here, but I hope that Eric can actually come in and share, a few comments about his experience in Indonesia, not only. Eric, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Paolo, and good morning, everyone. Very happy here to share information on what the needs are here in Asia for Earth observation services. And as you can see, we are not short of natural disasters, challenges, and other complex issues that needs solution. And Earth observation has been really growing in our operation for the last 5 to 10 years. ADB has a partnership agreement with European Space Agency, and we've been more and more trying to promote Earth observation services to our clients, to our countries and partners. There's huge needs here in Asia. Some countries, large countries, which are already middle-income countries, are very eager to get access to more technology, to more advanced knowledge, and this partnership with the European Space Agency has been fantastic, and that's why we are really looking at getting more innovation coming from Europe and really help our countries to address challenges. Just an example, there was a tsunami in 2018 combined with earthquake. So we directly contacted the ESA. They already directly run through the Copernicus protocol to generate quick mapping that really help us to provide quick response. We are before reconstruction, we also work with European companies to do land movement monitoring, which was very useful in redesigning some of the water supply systems, irrigation system, and other key infrastructure. So that's the kind of innovation we really need to support our clients. And I was looking at the chat box, Paolo. There were questions about small companies, and yes, right. we want small companies that provide really innovative solutions to be part of our investment. And really, as my colleague Stephane mentioned already, we encourage companies to register into the consultant management systems. We also encourage companies to venture with larger companies, but also to join as individual consultants. There are many opportunities across ADB, and Paolo is in the newly established digital technology department, so there will be more and more. That's a growing field of expertise, and also, as mentioned by my colleague Stephane, it's very important also to expand knowledge on the national markets. So try to identify local companies to venture, and that will be a good start. Let me stop here, Paolo. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Let me add a couple of comments which probably are related to the chat box questions. I will say that so far, there are several. We have several. There is actually much more than that, but from the companies that I do remember on top of my head, 80% of them are actually small. They belong to the small and medium enterprise segment. Usually, it's very easy to work with them because like they're flexible. They can deploy people where it's actually needed eventually. But also, let me say something else. What we are really looking for is really, allow me to not be shy here. We do people, we like to take people with us, during capacity building opportunities. Eric was mentioning that we did some procurements years ago, and we have something going on at the moment where we do showcase Earth observation services, not so much to our colleagues in HQ, but to our clients. If they're happy, they adopt it, and eventually they will include an Earth observation pillar in their loan or any kind of financial support they do request to ADB. There was another question related to does have ADB a ghost unit like the World Bank? Not exactly. We do have a very active working group on GIS. We have also some work to be done by resident GIS experts. But there are a lot of GIS competencies a little bit scattered inside ADB. But we have some, but not a fully dedicated unit. We, as I said, we tend to procure, our services from the outside. But if you want to look it up, there is a SPADE infrastructure, and we do have people, like resident consultant here in the bank dealing with GIS. I think I'll pass it back to Ravi or Chris, whoever wants to be a little bit.
Thank you, Paolo, and thank you to all the panel. It's been an incredibly helpful and clear overview of the methodologies and processes at ADB. Thanks for the very clear presentations. Just in these last few minutes, thank you already for picking up some of the questions that have come through on the Q&A, and there are some written responses going through there as well, which we will circulate later. Just to pick up a little bit further on the discussion around smaller companies. One question that has come through separately is around the question of whether there are methods of soft engagement, ways to instigate conversations, ways to sort of explore opportunities directly other than through procurements. I don't know if there's anybody who can comment on that.
Stephane, do you have any comments? Should I?
Yeah, this is not really a consultancy question. We have the concepts of partnership and things, but I don't know if you.
Stephane, just to interrupt, your audio is a little low. I don't know if there's anything you can adjust to make it a little clearer.
Maybe I'll go. Can you hear clearer now?
Yeah, maybe just have to try and speak up a little, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it's not really a consultancy thing. Yeah, I don't know, Paolo, have you got is this something you want to?
Yeah, I can actually try to respond. Well, as you know, procurement is procurement. There is nothing to be added on that, because of course you receive money based on a service that you qualify for. In terms of soft engagement, any opportunity, we have also once a year we do have the business opportunity fair, and some of the participants, I think they have been here. There was something in last October, if I'm not wrong, where we presented a few applications on Earth observation, and there were also some people coming from Europe in this case, but also from other parts of Asia coming in. In terms of soft engagement, as a part of the GDA program, we do offer the opportunity to of course, to showcase use cases, but this is not to say that they will be automatically selected. So there is no such a thing. But there is, the opportunity to really learn how the bank works, and we're always open to share that with you, because it's actually more to really understand how the bank works before you start to navigate into the CMS of looking for opportunities. Finally, then I'll pass it to you, Christian. There was a question about GDA. The procurement is not linked to DGA. The procurement we're talking about today is actually procurement of ADB. It's open to all the member countries, and that's why I at the beginning I listed that ADB as, of course, 68 member countries. You need to belong to one of those if you wanna be applying for consultancy services. Chris, I guess the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Paolo. No, I just wanted to actually compliment you, and you set the stage very nicely, both on the soft engagement and on the letter, what you mentioned in GDA. On the soft engagement, I think actually GDA is facilitating that, right? Because we partner in a very structured and strategic way at an institutional level with the ADB, and through the ESA investment, and in a sense through the investments that our member states make through ESA, right? We position those European Earth observation service industry partners to play a role in ADB, right? So initially not using ADB resources, but obviously the aim being that there's an uptake in ADB. As you said, and Paolo, there is obviously no such thing like, okay, there's a GDA ESA-funded project which immediately results in a co-financing of ADB. This is not the way we partner. In a sense, GDA is there to demonstrate something that has uptake potential, right? But of course, we try to select activities smartly, right? We don't just go there and do something where we feel this is nice, but we actually try to address needs that are expressed by ADB clients through our partnership, right? So in that sense, yes, the likelihood for uptake, we try to maximize that, but that doesn't mean that procurements are linked to GDA. So this is a complex relationship, but I think it's been very, very smooth and successful. And I see that Stephane has the hand up, but maybe just to clarify on the financing, because I had on my slide this figure of more than 100 million euros being mobilized, just maybe to what that means. Actually, we have about 35, bit more than 35 million euros on GDA side that we directly procure with the European Earth Observation Service industry. The rest are commitments on different development finance instruments, mechanisms, vehicles from our partners to accompany, to complement what we do on ESA side and to ensure together sustainable uptake and further further adoption of these types of services. So I hope this clarifies a bit. Stephane, please.
Thank you, Christophe. No, just to complement on what Paolo was saying regarding business opportunity seminar. Indeed, aside of this one, so we have a series of events. So you can really follow up on our website. I will share the link in the chat box, but we have regular events. And indeed, there is a business opportunity fair, which is coming up in October. So if you want also to attend physically in ADB, you can find also information on our website, and you can really attend and meet with project officer and have more details on our operation during this event. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Stephane. So we are coming to the end of the session, and there are a number of questions that have come through on the Q&A, which we will respond to and circulate answers to after the event. Just before we close, just two very quick questions I wonder, Paolo, whether you could help with, just in 30-second answers that relate to what's been raised on the Q&A. Somebody's mentioned there the GHOST team at the World Bank, that's the Geospatial Operations team. Just wondering if there's an equivalent at ADB that people can engage with. Is that essentially you and your team?
No, we don't have, as I said, there are different GIS competencies across the bank. There is the SPADE initiative, which is an internal geoportal we use, for our own projects, and then it comes with a group of experts working here on a full time. We tend to be probably good enough in GIS work, either with regular consultant here in the building. I don't think our ambition is really to do complex analysis of raster data. That one, we have some solutions in house, but we use those to stimulate the interest of our clients rather than trying to build a full team of 50 people crunching data full day.
Thank you, brilliant. And just finally, quickly on the regional digital twin, which you mentioned, you told us there that the procurement for that is just concluded. There's a question being raised for examples of the 3D urban work that's being done. Just wondering whether there are further stages in that project yet to come and further procurements coming up that might be of interest to European partners.
At the moment, we need to digest all this procurement that was done and implemented. There will be something for sure, probably after the summer, we will have some more stuff. But don't look only to the people that are here today. One advice that I can give you, if really people wants to start to engage with ADB, is actually sometime look into GIS kind of keywords, because many things, they're labeled like GIS, but they have much more than GIS, like in a sense that there is always some images computed, and they really go, coming from different colleagues, like we also discover ourselves, we don't have, like a central registry of everything which is related to GIS and Earth observation. So just navigate. Every minute you spend to navigate, like the CMS is actually well spent. Trust me, and Stephen already highlight that.
Okay.
Maybe Ravi, before you wrap up, just to complement. I know we are 1 minute over, but we are actually checking also those kind of questions in a sense through the GDA M&E contract together with our ADB partners. And, we have a part of it in the blog that was just released this week, but there is more in-depth analysis going on, and further down the line, we may communicate on those results also once properly analyzed. Yeah, just to flag that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. And yes, we do need to bring things to a close now. And just before we do, just to mention again that the recording of this session and presentations, and indeed some responses to some of the other questions that have been raised, will be circulated after the event. Also, just wanted to reiterate that we do have further webinars coming up from the Monitoring Evaluation team over the coming months. This session today concludes the series of 3 sessions focused on procurement, but the next webinar, actually next week, May the 17th, that'll be at 10 a.m. Washington, 9 a.m. Washington time, 3 p.m. European time, and I believe that's 9 p.m. Manila time. We'll be focused on a report published a few months ago by partners Caribou Space and London Economics, focusing on the overall role and impact of satellite Earth observation in developing countries. And that webinar will dig deeper into some of the analysis that emerged from there. There's another session coming up in September that will look at some of the early outcomes from the evaluation of the GDA program, and we'll share some of the insights into what will come next as the program continues to unfold. And we will continue to publish information about other webinars that will come up over the next few months on the GDA website. So thank you very much again for joining us. I hope it's been a helpful session, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.